Welcome back, everyone, to GDT Live. Things look a little different today. Colton, unfortunately, having major internet issues for about a week now, trying to get that sorted out. Dayton off for a birthday celebration. He won't be here as well. So I've jumped into the place to take over for GDT Live today. My name is Ryley, if you don't know me. One of the co-founders of GDT. So just happy to be here and kind of take over the show for a day. First off, actually, I just said about me. We're actually going to throw to Colton here in a minute. He interviewed Liam Horrobin of Oilers Nation every day. So stick around for that because that's a great interview. I just want to remind everyone, subscribe, like, follow us on all social media, download our podcast everywhere that you get podcasts. And yeah, we just thank you for being here. So without any further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Colton, and he's going to get us started with this interview.
Everyone to GDT Live. I'm your host, Colton Davies. And today we're bringing on Liam Horrobin to talk about the Oilers prospects and what's kind of going on in Edmonton. We're going to chat about Tommy Lafreniere, David Lewandowski, and just the Oilers prospects. But Liam, how's it going over in Edmonton?
Things are good. A bit of a wild game yesterday against the Montreal Canadiens. A lot of Habs fans in my mentions today. They weren't too happy with some of my commentary on the game, but just a classic Edmonton Oilers game. They somehow blow it, then figure out a way to get back into it. So, bit of a roller coaster season start for the Oilers, but hey, it's probably one of their best in the last few years. So hard to complain, but things have been good in general.
That's good. That's good. Let's talk about Tommy Lafreniere. He's obviously up to 10 points in 10 games right now with the Kamloops Blazers. What have you made of Lafreniere's start to the WHL season?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously started out slow, I guess we can call it, after coming out from Oilers camp, but seems to have picked it up a lot recently, especially on that Saskatchewan road trip that I think most BC teams dread in the Western Hockey League, and obviously vice versa when they have to come the other way too. But good to get it done in October rather than late February, wherever else the winter gets harsh. But yeah, I think fairly happy with him. When the Oilers took him, I was surprised, I think you could say. Like, they typically don't take a lot of players out of the Western League. When you go back and look through their recent history, there's very few. Like, honestly, Stuart Skinner might have been one of the more recent ones, and he's played for the Oilers for the past 3 or 4 seasons. But I was happy to see they took him. I'm glad Kamloops was pushing him a bit more to play on the top line as more of a center, but it looks like they've brought him back out onto the right wing recently, right? But I think it's I think it's been a pretty good start for him so far. What have you made of his season so far? I'm sure you watch him a lot more than I do as well.
Yeah, I get the day in and day out action of him, of course, but I don't know, man. I think I agree with you though, like a little slow to start the season. But he's really connecting with Hurlburt. He's finding connections with other guys. Him and Ty Bonkowski have good chemistry, but I think Laff is just kind of I think the Edmonton camp really kind of elevated him a little bit. He knows what he needs to work on, what to kind of grind down. He's been awesome though. Like, he's one of my favorite players here. Great guy to chat with day in and day out. But I mean, I would say he just needs to kind of slow it down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really about it with his game. Just slow it down a little bit. He sees the ice very well. That's something that I think scouts really give him a boost for, is just his hockey IQ. But yeah, for me, Laff is off to a great start. And I say great, but 10 points, 10 games.
Yeah,
it's looking good. How about David Lewandowski? Saskatoon.
Yeah, again, another player that almost a bit of the opposite of Lewandowski. Came off out of Oilers camp really, really hot. What do you have, a 5-point game or something like that? And it's cooled off a little bit. But I think the one thing that's about Lewandowski that I like about his game is how how quickly he was able to adapt to a North American style, just starting from last season in what would have been obviously his draft year on a Saskatoon team that was good, but maybe I've probably fair to say overachieved a little bit last year. Obviously, ended up trading off a couple of pieces as well. But coming over from Germany, not starting the season here, and then figuring out getting drafted, and now he just seems to have taken over that role as like one of their top players on a Blades team. That's, hey, give him credit. Like, it takes a lot to trade a Mullendijk, but then come back and have the pieces that they did. So I think again, Oilers fans are happy with him. I think the thing with Oilers fans and prospects is, one, like I mentioned, like they want to see players from the Western League because it's just easier to see them. You can just go watch an All Kings game and these kids come through town and you get to watch them. But also, too, just to see guys score some goals. There's been so many prospects that have come through the Edmonton system where it's just like, oh, I forgot this guy was even a prospect for us. And now it seems to be a little bit more of optimism. The Oilers didn't pick until the third round last year, and they got Lafreniere, and in the fourth round they got Lewandowski. So I think for both those guys just to come out and put up strong numbers, and actually when you watch the game see like a bit of dominance from them as well, it's actually really reassuring from the fans' perspective to see players that the scouts have identified having success early.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a refresher for the Oilers fans, of course, drafted out of the WHL. Another player that was drafted out of the WHL but now plays over in Michigan, Aiden Park. What did you make of him?
I like Aiden. I actually remember a few years ago I saw him when he was playing for Shattuck St. Mary's. He was playing on a line with Riker Lee and William Zellers, I think it was. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, he was the third best player on that line. But when you got to watch that Shattuck team at the Circle K, if anyone was there, and even if you're a scout there like I was, like, you weren't really watching them to be like, oh, I'm going to recruit this player to my team here. It's like, oh, no, these guys are just absolutely dominating. And I think with Aiden, obviously a quick stint in the Western League with the Hitmen, but now with Michigan playing on a fourth line on what is a very deep Michigan roster, but doing well, getting some power play time. He's obviously got that offensive ability to him. And I think like 2 goals, 5 points, something around there early in his university career. But one thing he needs to improve on, I don't think his skating is as great as it needs to be right now. But again, he's got a long runway. He's a freshman at Michigan, so he's going to be there for a few years. But I mean, for a seventh round pick, and obviously we all saw the story on draft day of him actually being in the building, which was cool for him to have that experience. And now he's at a great program. So I'm optimistic he can become something. I'm not sure it's ever going to be a consistent NHL player. I'm not writing him off by any means, but I just think his skating is something that could hold him back. But his offensive ability, I think he has a lot to go off there, and I think that's what would push him up to the next level.
Looking at another NCAA guy, Paul Fisher, out in Notre Dame there. What do you make of Fisher's game and just kind of where he slots into the Oilers system?
Yeah, so for people who don't know, Paul Fisher became an Oilers prospect because the St. Louis Blues offered Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg. I think most people would prefer those two guys on the roster than Paul Fisher. No disrespect to him, but he's I think the one thing coming into the season we needed to see from Fisher was a bit more of offensive game. He was known as like a defensive defenseman, and the story coming in too was that I believe Bowman and his family have some kind of relationship too, or maybe Bowman had just watched him a lot when he was younger, but he's had a good start to the season. They also played Robert Morris, who isn't one of the prestigious university teams, so take that for what it's worth. But you also still need to put the puck in the net if it's Robert Morris or Michigan. So I think he's had a good start, and that was the piece. Like, everyone was happy with his defensive game. There was no denying that. He's a solid defenseman. He played on the World Juniors roster for the US. I think it was last season, the year before, whenever it was. Just needed to see a bit more offense, and I believe he's right around the point per game player now to start the season. Again, it's very early, but hey, he's putting the puck in the net, he's producing, and that's what we all asked him to do before the season, and that's what he's doing, so it's hard not to be happy with him.
Exactly. Looking at the KHL, Maxim Berzakin, I don't even know how to pronounce that last name. What do you make of him?
So he is an interesting player. So obviously drafted quite a few years ago by the Oilers, but last season it seemed like it was going to be the year he was finally going to come over, and it was honestly the only year there'd ever really been a conversation about him coming over to North America and playing, and a little bit of hope maybe he could have snuck on to one of the playoff rosters. He ended up signing a new deal, but I believe he can come over this year if the Oilers choose to do so. Unfortunately for him, his team got a new head coach, and it was Bob Hartley, who, of course, is the old Calgary Flames head coach. And all of a sudden, maybe just a coincidence, but his point production has fallen off quite significantly. From stuff I've read, I've not watched too much of him so far this season. It seems like a bit more of a systems thing, and he's being asked to play a bit of a different role than he had previously when he was putting up pretty decent offensive numbers. I hope the Oilers can still bring him over because he's got a lot to go off. When you look at what he did last season, he's a big power forward who can score some goals, play the body as well a little bit. Like, I wonder if he can become something maybe similar to what Vasily Podkolzin has been for Edmonton. Of course, got the game winner against Montreal last night too. So I think Edmonton is just trying to find those small pieces they can plug into the lineup and play up and down. And I think Berzlikins can be one of those guys. Hopefully, again, his offensive game can come around a little bit in the KHL, and Bob Hartley can put his Flames bias to the side. But I think he'll be fine. And again, another player that Oilers fans are fairly optimistic about too.
Looking at the current roster, Ike Howard, obviously the big name, the rookie that comes in. He's got 1 goal so far, but looking at Howard throughout these games that he's played, how do you feel he's cementing himself into the Oilers lineup?
So I think Howard has done really well the last, honestly, 2 or 3 games. He got scratched against the Devils, but came back to play against Detroit. And obviously he was a Michigan State player. So all his team was there, and he played pretty well that game, but he had a really good chance in the slot where he just fluffed on it. And you could just see it was a sense of like really frustrated for a guy who's like known for scoring. That's what his whole game is. He's like, I score goals. And obviously he came in as the Iceman, got a bit of arrogance about him, which I think has been a positive for him as too. But then he finally got his first goal the other night against Ottawa, and it was a really great finish, like right in the slot with off Draisaitl. Last night he was okay. Like, he's only playing about 10 minutes a night, and I think that might even be like a nice stat line to give him. But for the next game, Knobloch said he is playing next to Connor McDavid on the top line, and I think Mangiapane is on the other wing. So Knobloch's come out multiple times and said, he's like, we're really happy with what he's done and how he's progressed in just a short sample size. One thing that's benefited him is the Oilers forwards just keep getting injured, and he's been able to stay alive on this roster. And credit to him, he actually is playing pretty well. I'm very curious to see how he'll do with McDavid. And I mean, it's not easy. Like, people make it seem like just put anyone with McDavid. How hard could it be? It's like, well, that guy moves at 100 miles per hour, and not everyone has the same hockey IQ as the best player in the world, believe it or not. So I think Howard's been good. I think he needs to pick his spots a little bit better when he's shooting the puck, but still don't fade away from actually shooting the puck, if that makes any sense at all. But he's got a hell of a shot. I think he seems like he's fitting in very well, and the players were so stoked for him to score his goal the other day. So I think he's been a good fit, and I think he's become a bit of a survivor, I guess you can call it, for this team right now.
Looking at another player that, he's not a rookie, but 29 years. Well, I guess he's technically a rookie, but 29 years old. David Tomasek, same age as I am. What do you make of Tomasek? I mean, it's 3 points in however many games so far. He seems like he's finding his footing. How do you like Tomasek?
So this is one of my more controversial opinions, according to people on my show, Oilers Nation Every Day. I'm mixed on him. I think coming into the season, I had high expectations. I thought maybe like we were kind of calling him the wild card on the team because no one really knew. And then all of a sudden, he was just the number 1 guy on the power play, replacing Zach Hyman, but also playing like 4th line minutes. So I think we all thought maybe he could touch 20 goals. He actually did get his first goal of the season last night. Just got a puck to the net, hit the defenseman, and went in, which not a lot of Oilers forwards are doing. I think he needs to produce a little bit more at 5-on-5, and people will go at me and like, look at his analytics. But like, when you watch the game, he doesn't seem as noticeable as I would like. And I think he's been good. I don't think he's been bad. I don't think he's been anything special either, but I think he's sliding fine. I think he's going to be a really solid, probably bottom 6 forward for the Oilers, someone they can plug up and down the lineup, which again what they look for in a lot of their wingers is just a bit of versatility. So I think he's been okay. I've again tempered my expectations. I think maybe he's a guy that could touch like 7 or 8 goals, but hard to be too upset with what we've seen from him so far.
How about Noah Phillip? 3 points in 5 games. He seems to be taking people. I don't even know if by surprise is the right phrase, but he seems to be really finding his own and figuring it out. Really.
Yeah, he's done a good job. He actually scored his first goal against Vancouver, but then was healthy scratched for like 2 or 3 games or something silly like that. First start of the game, got his goal, and I didn't see him for a week. So, but he does a good job. He's struggling somewhat defensively on getting outshot, but I don't think he ever gives out like when he's on, it's never like too many huge opportunities against. Typically, it's just like it seems like sometimes they get buried in their zone a little bit, and it's a bit of a free for all. But I like Philp. I think everyone in Edmonton, he's got a very interesting story. Actually took a year off hockey and essentially retired from the game. Came through U Sports as well. The Golden Bears he played for out of what was he? Kootenay. He was a Kootenay Ice player. Shout out Kootenay Ice. And then, but he's done a good job in the NHL. I think everyone wants to see him succeed because just seeing the story is a very underdog story, and I think he's good. I don't think he's going to be anything more than a third line center when it's all said and done. But at the end of the day, he's 28, 29 years old. Like he's not a spring chicken anymore. And we all saw the success that Derek Ryan had in his career after starting so late and ending his career in Edmonton, obviously. So I'm sure the two of them had some conversations. Derek Ryan, another Golden Bear. So quite funny the way that kind of works out. But fans are happy with Philp. He skates really well. Like you said, he's got a couple of goals. Defensive game probably needs a little bit more work. But the other problem is too, like the Oilers are changing their lines so much. Like they were showing it yesterday. It's almost harder to say who hasn't played with each other than who has played with each other. Now that we're already 8 games into the season, so happy with Philp. Just need to see him show a bit more consistency.
Last player I'm going to ask you about is Matt Savoy, another WHL guy, of course. What do you think his ceiling is, and what do you kind of project for him this year?
I love Matt Savoy. I think he is probably one of my favorite Oiler players in years that didn't have like the hype he deserved. I think if you grew up in Western Canada, you've probably heard of Matt Savoy quite a bit. When I worked for the Sherwood Park Crusaders, he came in during the COVID year and played with us a little bit there too, because his brother Carter was also on the team. So I could see firsthand what he's all about, and maybe I'm a little bit biased towards it, but I just think he's got the potential to be a star for the Oilers, and I can't believe they got him for Ryan McLeod. Ryan McLeod was a player here that was just, honestly, fans did not like him at all. He was soft. He didn't score many goals and was just one of those players too. And the one thing in Edmonton, which is such a divide, it's a very political divide in Edmonton of like analytics, eye test. No one can seem to come to the middle, and that's where Ryan McLeod was all analytics and not eye test. And again, just to get him for Savoy, I think people are happy with him. He got the overtime assist on, what was that, Monday, Tuesday against Ottawa. Great face-off win. Yesterday, too, he won't get credited with it, but he was the one that set up the play, essentially, to get the puck moving on Podkolzin's game-winning goal. He's playing on the penalty kill already. I'd love to see how many rookies are playing on the penalty kill in the NHL today, because there has to be. You could probably count them on one hand if there is that many. So I'm a huge fan of him. I think he's a star in the making. I just think he needs to get rolling a little bit here, and fans will grow to appreciate him. But Tyler and I have had a pretty good debate on him the last little bit. Both very excited for him. Tyler's Andrew Cogliano is his comparison for him. Again, a player that played like 1,200 games, very defensively responsible. I think he could maybe be like a Jordan Eberle guy, like consistent 25, 30 goal guy who's someone you just love to plug and play in your lineup. But my favorite part about Matt Savoy is that he still lives with his parents in St. Albert, in just a suburb of Edmonton here. So I think that's just really funny. I can imagine he goes home. Mom asked him about the game, and on the weekends, like, yeah, Mom, I'm going out. I'm going to go hang out with my friends Connor and Leon tonight. And then he just goes out and says, okay, home by the street lights. Come on, Matthew. And off he goes to his NHL career.
Oh, I love that. That is awesome. Who's your favorite Oilers? Like, which Oilers prospect are you highest on right now?
The Oilers prospect I'm highest on right now. Good question. They just brought over a couple of players from Europe who Marjula, I believe is Slovakian or Finnish or something like that. He's very interesting to me because he plays very loose, I think is probably a good way to put it. Like he's just very free flowing player. I'm excited for him. They got a German player called Josh Szymanski, who's a bit more of a bigger player down the middle. He had a really good preseason, not the best start to the NHL, the AHL season for Bakersfield, but definitely not bad. Honestly, the player I'm most excited about, it might be like Lewandowski or Lafreniere, just because I get to watch him so much more than those other guys because they're obviously very similar time zones. But I like both those guys. I don't know what they're going to become, but just two players that look like they could be something. And Lafreniere, when I was the head scout of Sherwood Park, I never actually connected with him, but one of my scouts was like, we have to try and recruit this kid. He was playing at Yale Academy at the time, and he hadn't signed with Kamloops yet. And I was like, he's like, we got to look at him. And just as I was kind of like engaging and looking at him, trying to figure out ways I could see him in person, he was signed in Kamloops, and he was just gone. And then he was drafted by the Oilers. So it was just reassuring to know that we were on the right track with him, and we didn't know what we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a kid who I project to get like 70, 80 points this year. We'll see.
Yeah.
But playing with Hurlburt, I think that's kind of realistic right now. Have you had a chance to watch Hurlburt at all?
Yeah, I've seen him a decent amount. I saw him a little bit too when he was with his Dallas team at the U16 16U level. He is he's quite the talent. And I mean, I think it's great for the Western League just in general to be able to recruit these guys and now and with the NCAA thing. I know it's going to take a little bit of time to really iron things out, but to have those players come to Kamloops like JP is and other players too, like in Penticton, Kwasnika, like the Islanders pick, and there's so many others. Like the Oil Kings have that Andrew O'Neill kid as well. So I don't think people realize that how much quality has come into Western Canada and obviously Quebec and Ontario as well with the talent that's there. And yeah, sure, the USHL has suffered, but so what? Like eventually they all go down to the NCAA anyway, or they make their way to the NHL. I think it's a really exciting time. It's a very interesting time for junior hockey, but again, if you can get someone like JP Herbert, who is just absolutely dominated the start of his Western League career, I don't know how fans can't be excited about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to look at it from that point of view as well, right? Like, sure, there's the mass exodus of players that McKenna's, the Verhoffs, the Reshnies that all left, but there's all these players like Hurlburt, O'Neill, etc., like who never would have played in this league if it
Yeah,
wasn't for the change, right? So I think it's
totally.
important to look at it from that point of view. Liam, my last question for you. I ask everybody this. What's your favorite Oilers jersey that they've ever worn?
Oh, my favorite one. They had one a few years ago, and unfortunately, it was during the COVID season, so none of us really got to see it. But they had the McFarland logo, which was like kind of that flame bolt thing, I guess we can call it, whatever it is. But it was there on top of an old reverse retro jersey that they had, where it was just white and had orange on it too. You'd have to look it up. I'm terrible at describing, but it was just so cool, and they haven't done it. They only did it for the one season, and I never got to see them actually play in it. They did another one that was similar with just the Oilers logo on it, which was still really cool. But those two are probably my favorites. But they just released a new white one that just says Oilers on the front of it, and it looks more like a Michelin Ness kind of design. And honestly, I've not bought an Oilers jersey for a long time, so I think that's the one I'm going to get, and I'm going to go with I Coward on the back of it. Hopefully he can live up to my expectations. But I've got some good ones for him, and I think it's time I get a new Oilers jersey.
No, that's a good option. I like that jersey, honestly. I thought it's okay. Liam, thanks so much for joining me here for 20 minutes. It was awesome to chat with you about some prospects, and we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, you bet. Always down to chat.
Awesome.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-97-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Apply NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much to Liam for doing that interview with Colton. That was awesome. I just got some little things to talk about today. More some surprising standings, good and bad. So let's kind of break them down. Feel free to get in the comments if you want to chat about this at all. You know, I am alone here, so if anyone wants to have a conversation, feel free. Jump in the comments and we can hash it out. Let's start with the Atlantic Division. Let's talk about some good teams that are surprising in the Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings. Montreal with 12 points right out of the gate, really living up to their hype. Detroit, if you saw a couple episodes ago, I was super harsh on them, losing their home opener of their 100th season. And it was super embarrassing. You know, they got beat 5-1 or whatever it was. So I was super harsh on Detroit. But look at them go now. I don't even know if they've lost since. They've been a fantastic team, one of the best offenses in the league. They've been beating everyone on their route. So good for them. Is the Atlantic shifting? I don't know. It's early in the season, but this looks like a pretty good bet that things are changing. We got the Metro. We got the Devils. Maybe not as surprising as some would think, but they do have their 12 points right now. And then you have the Penguins as well with 12 points, which is the big surprise, really. Pittsburgh Penguins, 12 points, tied for first in the Metro, which is just incredible for, you know, everyone thought that it was tanked for McKenna, and here they are leading. If you're Pittsburgh, I don't know if they want to be doing this good, but at least for now, they are off to a hot start. Justin Brazeau is off to an incredible goal-scoring pace from a fourth liner last year to now leading that team in scoring. Malkin up there with like 10 points, 10 assists or whatever he's got. So who knows? Who knows where the Penguins can go? But I'm hoping that, you know, I don't mind. Actually, I don't even know what I hope, because I hope that they're not good for their sake, but at the same time, Crosby deserves a cup. So if they can go win, go for it. Jump over to the West. Central, Utah Mammoth. First year as the Mammoth, first place in their division, which is obviously maybe the hardest division in hockey right now. It's that in the Atlantic probably. But if you look at it, like, you know, Dallas is not there. Colorado's not there. They're right there at the top. But maybe even the more surprising pick, because Utah at its core is a great team. But then you go Chicago with 10 points up there in the top three in the division, like second in the division, I believe, in points. So incredible to see Chicago really doing this. Bedard looks better. Nazar looks better than Bedard does this year. Their defense just looks, you know, Kaiser and Renzel and Levshinov, they're so young but so talented. So I don't know. Maybe Chicago doesn't go away. Maybe they don't make the playoffs, but maybe they aren't in last place like everyone expected them to be. They're looking like a team that actually knows what they're doing, which is awesome to see. And they got Foligno back. His little girl's heart procedure went well. He came back, led them to a big win his first game back. Good for him. Happy to see for Foligno. And the Pacific. The Pacific is even more surprising almost. You have the Seattle Kraken with 10 points, Anaheim Ducks with 9 points, and Vancouver Canucks with 8 points. Kraken, maybe only mediocrely surprising because they were a good team their first year. Not such a good team since, but that's okay. They seem to have maybe turned it around. You got Anaheim, who no one was expecting to do this good, and it's taken some overtime wins, and it's taken some, you know, high-scoring games and some different things to happen to get them here. But 9 points is 9 points this early in the year, and they're right there with the competitive teams in the Pacific. And then the Canucks, who are, I guess, my middle ground team. I'm just slightly surprised that they're doing this good out the gates. I wasn't sure how this team was going to be, so they're okay to me. I don't really mind where they're at, but we'll see if they could do better, or they could do worse as well, because it is the Canucks after all. And we'll go to the bottom feeders, which pains me, as you see a team behind me, tied for, I believe, second worst in the National Hockey League, Tampa Bay Lightning. They look bad. They look lethargic. They don't seem to have anything going. They're stars. Hedman, unfortunately, is just not looking like himself at all. He's looking slow. He's got bad IQ. It seems like he's turning pucks over like crazy at terrible times, costing the team games. Vasilevsky's not looking very good. He's one of the bottom 5 goalies in the NHL, I think, for points. No wins, no overtime games, I believe, for him as well. He's just losing straight. And then a guy like Cooch, who, yes, he missed 2 games, but even last night he had the massive turnover that went the other way, and then he didn't back check it. It ends up in the back of the net with a minute left. I don't know. Just they keep finding ways to beat themselves. So we'll see if Tampa can turn this around, because if not, with how far behind they are already, things are not going to go well. In the Metro, it has to be the Rangers. They're the only ones who are just not doing well. They just can't score. They're getting shut out at home 3 games straight. They're just a problem to themselves for whatever reason. I think the Rangers and Tampa's mold kind of fit the same, where they're a little lost. They have elite goaltenders. They have great top-end talent, and they have good depth, but none of it's coming together. And, they both traded off guys that maybe they're missing. Sergachev is playing fantastic in Utah. Keandre Miller is playing pretty good in Carolina, and so is Ryan Lindgren in Seattle. So teams that are kind of missing some guys, maybe they wish they had, but we'll see if either of them can turn out. In the Central, I'm surprised that Dallas and Minnesota are actually at the bottom of that division, 7 points each. I don't know. They're 2 good teams. I don't see them sticking down. They're not that far behind the rest of the division. I think it's like 8 points, and 9 points is easily a playoff team. So really, they're not that far behind. But it is surprising to see them not at the top. Maybe not so much Minnesota, but definitely Dallas, who most people have picked to win this division. They're, essentially tied for last in the division. And then the Pacific, Oilers are on tilt watch here, because I couldn't put them in surprisingly good, even though they're in the middle of their division, because they're the Oilers. They should be at the top. So having only 9 points, Bouchard is looking terrible. I am unfortunately one of the harshest critics on Bouchard. I think he's a horrible defenseman. I think he gets by way too much off the coattails of McDavid, Draisaitl, and whoever they use to shelter him, which can't be Nurse, because even he's not good enough. So they're just, I just don't think that he's good. Nurse is good. Their defense is struggling. Their goaltending is struggling. Pickard let in a lot last night. Skinner has been questionable. They have Ingram. Are they going to bring him up? Are they not going to bring him up? We don't know where that's at. And then my other one is the Kings. Kings are only at 8 points. The Kings have for years now been trying not to match up with the Oilers in the playoffs, because we all know how that goes. So I think the Kings need to step it up a little bit if they see the Oilers this far down. They almost need to try and take advantage of it, get ahead of them. And, Pacific's pretty open. They should try and get first place in the division, or try and get, second if the Oilers are going to finish 4th or something. They just need to do something to maybe not match up with the Oilers, because we all know how that goes, but not miss the playoffs, trying to just miss the Oilers. Okay. Last thing I'll go over here is just some stats, and then we'll pretty much wrap it up. We got our NHL points leaders for the season so far. Lots of, honestly, surprises here in this one. We got Eichel with 16 points, not a very big surprise there. Nylander with 13, Stone with 13, Nick Schmaltz with 13, and Dylan Larkin with 13. That rounds out our first and tied for second. Schmaltz last night put up 3 points. Big surprise. He jumped up. Larkin is there. He's been the just leader all the way around for Detroit. Stone went on IR, so that number is going to be stagnated. And of course, Stone went on LTIR again, right? No, just kidding. Now that the rules have changed, it doesn't benefit them at all, other than $3 million. So it's not going to do much for them. And if you can't come back for the playoff, then it is what it is. Goal leaders, this is where it's the most surprising. We are used to Stamkos, Ovechkin, Matthews, whoever else, right? Lots of goal scorers in this league. Well, we have Shane Pinto. We have Mark Scheifele, Pavel Dorofeyev, Cole Caulfield, and Seth Jarvis, all tied with 7. And it's fun. This is an exciting time to see a guy like Shane Pinto, who was suspended, right, for that, gambling thing. Don't tell DraftKings. You got Scheifele, who almost left Winnipeg and then doubled down and committed. You got Dorofeyev, who has been a middling player, and all of a sudden he's a stud. Caulfield looks like he's coming into his own as one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. And Jarvis, maybe the best Swiss Army knife player in the NHL today, just does everything you ask. So it's a changing of the guard a little bit here for who's at the top of the goal scoring, which is pretty cool to see. We'll see how long they can all keep up that pace. If I had to pick, probably only Caulfield will keep that pace. Scheifele's more of a pass-first guy. Dorofeyev could just be hot. Pinto could just be hot. And Jarvis, like I said, is super well-rounded. So he'll just do whatever Carolina needs. And if that means he plays more defensive, then he loses his scoring opportunities. So I see Caulfield being the true first-line guy who's going to keep this pace up. Let's go to the assists. We got Nylander, Stone, Suzuki, all tied for 11. So, Nylander's having a great year. Just showing, maybe they didn't need Marner in Toronto as much. He's really just taken over. Of all three of Matthews, Marner, Nylander's my favorite pick. He's always a motor in the playoffs, just keeps going, does the best he can. So I like Nylander. Suzuki right there with Caulfield, right? Obviously, Caulfield doesn't get where he's at without Suzuki. Suzuki, underrated, one of the best players in the NHL for sure. Does he make Team Canada this year at the Olympics? That is the question. Hopefully, because he's one heck of a player. Then Eichel, Malkin, McDavid. Starting to round out with the top guys. Malkin maybe not supposed to be there anymore, but he's really leading the Penguins very well. And then Eichel and McDavid, of course, coming up with their higher totals. And wins for the NHL. Goaltenders. This is a category that's just kind of all over the place. Not really any star goaltenders up here anymore. Like I said, Vasilevsky has no wins. Shesterkin's near the bottom. Sorokin basically has no wins. Ottinger is down. They're not doing good. So we start off with Scott Wedgwood and Karel Vejmelka with 5 wins apiece, leading the NHL. Obviously, Wedgwood filling in for Blackwood, who's hurt, but still an impressive feat nonetheless. I know, Colorado's a great team, but you still have to be the good goalie behind the great team if the team's going to win. So 5 wins for him, 5 wins for Vejmelka. We got Dobish, Hellebuck, Decord, Logan Thompson, Bobrovsky, Akira Schmid, and Freddie Anderson, rounding out with 4 wins each. So again, this is Colorado. It's Utah, Montreal, Winnipeg, Seattle, Washington, Florida, Vegas, and Carolina. So it's kind of a mix. These goalies will start to separate themselves, I think, as well. Will a guy like Dobish be able to keep it up? Decord, we saw, has been good. Logan Thompson, he's arguably trying to be, one of the better goalies in the NHL this year. So we'll see what happens. And then we got our goals against average. Dobish leading this with 1.47. Logan Thompson, 1.61. My surprise goalie of the year, actually, because he's just been a perennial backup for the last 4 or 5 years, is Dan Vladar. He actually has 3 wins, so he's just below that 4-win category, and he has a 1.81 goals against average. So he's playing extremely well for a, let's say, lesser talented Philadelphia Flyers team. Shesterkin's got 1.86, and Jake Allen has 1.91. And then our save percentages are Dobish with 950, arguably the best goalie in the NHL right now is Dobish. Spencer Knight, 0.937. He's playing fantastic as well for Chicago. There's a big reason why they have 10 points. It's because Spencer Knight is playing like a true number 1 goaltender in Chicago. Dan Vladar, who I just mentioned, 0.932. So he is showing that he's one of the best goalies in the NHL right now. As, Calgary decided not to keep him, and Dustin Wolf is struggling, and there's Vladar being, top 5 in the NHL and all goaltending stats. Hellebuck with a 0.932 as well, tied with Vladar, and Jake Allen 0.931. So the goaltending for these teams that are at the top, you can tell who they are, right? Montreal's in first, Chicago's in second. Philly's not there, unfortunately, but Hellebuck, he's leading Winnipeg, and then Allen's got New Jersey in first. So you just look at these goaltenders, and they're really the reason why their teams are performing so well. And then we have teams with shutouts. Funny enough, Pittsburgh is the only team with 2 shutouts. They have Jari and Seelovs. Gustafsson, Leon, Skinner, Shesterkin, and Decord round out with one shutout. No one has more than that at the moment. All right, let's break down something that I'm actually not happy about. And that's the Nashville Predators' handling of Brady Martin. You keep the kid for a month. You end up playing him in his first 2 games and he gets a point. So he's, 50% points per game. You sit him for 4 games after that, including what was 1 game, which would have been in his hometown of Toronto. And then he plays 1 more game for 10 minutes, and then they send him back to the Sioux. To me, that's just a joke. You don't do that with your young kids. That's just a way to waste a month. He could have put up 30 points almost in the OHL in that month because, the OHL started before the NHL season did. So he could be near 30 points in the OHL right now, just dominating, having a great year. And I know there's something to be said for practicing in the NHL and yada, but he can practice in the NHL next year. That a month of practicing doesn't do him any good. Now he needs to go back, find his game, become dominant in the OHL. And I just think they slowed it down. And it was just a stupid saying, we have a plan. Well, your plan was play him twice, sit him 4 games, and then play him once and send him to the minors. Like, what a stupid plan. That makes no sense to me, especially when you skipped his game at home when you were going to send him down after 3 games anyways. Like, it doesn't. You have either 9 games with a kid or you give him none. I don't know why they decided to just give Brady Martin 3 games in 1 month. It's so stupid to me, and how they thought that was a good enough sample size to watch him, and how somehow he was not helping the team enough, right? Like if he wasn't helping the team enough after 3 games, how was he helping the team to even stay on the team? So yeah, this is just my gripe with Nashville, because what they did to me is just a way to ruin a kid's confidence too. Is you keep him up and then you just keep him scratched, and he's just doing pregame skates by himself, and he's doing practices with the scratch guys, and it just doesn't equal out to the same as what he would have been getting back in the OHL. So yeah, I think they're going to regret that decision, because it could have slowed his development a little bit, even though it's only 1 month. If he goes back and only puts up like 10 points in the next 20 games, well, we'll see a direct result that his season was just, thrown into a wrench that he wasn't prepared for. My last thing I got here actually is goaltending controversy in the future of the Buffalo Sabres. It's not Devin Levi, apparently. It is Colton Ellis, 25-year-old. They just cleaned off waivers from St. Louis. When his first career start the other night with 27 save performance. And from what I heard, I didn't see it, is that he is looking impressive. This doesn't seem good for Devin Levi, who was arguably the highest touted goaltender coming up. And now all of a sudden, Devin Levi is looking like he is not going to be the goaltender of the future for the Buffalo Sabres. And I want to know what Sabres fans think of that, because there's been a lot of time invested in him. He's the goalie that they traded and got for Sam Reinhart, right? That's a big piece of the Sam Reinhart trade. Now Reinhart's off winning cups, and if Devin Levi doesn't work out, how do the Buffalo Sabres fans feel about it? Does it just feel normal? Just like everything else, like everything they get in return seems to just fade and not work out? Because, we look at Peterka, he's on the first line in Utah, who's having a great start to his year. Reinhart, who we just talked about, Eichel, who's leading the league in points. It just doesn't make sense to me that the Buffalo Sabres can be this bad. This has to start at the top. They need a house cleaning from president all the way down. No offense to Lindy Ruff, but how's he the coach there again? If he still is, I think he is this year. Like, it's just a struggle. So I think both Colton Ellis and Devin Levi should be the goaltenders in Buffalo. And I know people like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, but he's not really the goalie of the future, and he's kind of hardly the goalie of now, so you could trade him to be a backup somewhere else. And since they are not a good team, just let it go. Let these kids play. Give them a full, true 50-50 split, 1 game, 1 game, 1 game, 1 game, and just let them get in a rhythm. See which one's actually going to take the net, because just stuffing Levi in the minors behind a guy who's barely a starter and then calling up another goaltender instead of him seems like a rough idea to me. Yeah, that's my take. My take on mishandling Brady Martin and Devin Levi. Two different situations. Two teams that are kind of known for mishandling their young guys, though. And I guess actually just we'll end it off on this. We'll call the Rangers. I saw someone complaining the other day, why are the Rangers so bad with their luck of draft picks? And yes, maybe their guys haven't turned out the way that they wanted to. But don't get it wrong that the New York Rangers are the worst team in the NHL at developing prospects. Don't get that wrong. They are absolutely terrible. The way that they've handled Laff, he was a third liner for multiple years. Why they ever kept that pick in the first place when they won the lottery, they should have traded it and cashed in on a superstar that was available at the time. Why they kept second overall with Kakko when they were not a bad team, they should have traded that pick away. Hedl should have been traded, and they hung on to these guys. Kakko was on the fourth line for 2 years. Hedl was on the fourth line for 2 years. Why they didn't trade them when they still had value for real NHLers. The New York Rangers are caught between, we want to play these young guys that we luck into getting versus, we want to win the Stanley Cup. They're stuck in the middle of that because they don't trade the young guys to commit to the win, right? To get the star NHL players or the complementary NHL players that will get them over the hump. But they hang on to these guys and then their value is toast. Like Lafreniere at the beginning of this season, they were saying he's ready to take that next step. He's got 1 point this year, and he's looking disappointing again. Now this year his value's gone. So now your 2021st overall pick has no value, just like your second overall pick, Kakko, had no value, and Hedl had no value, and Keandre Miller really had no value. And they just keep dropping these guys. Like Braden Schneider, he's not looking like the best NHL player either. His value is gone. Gabe Perreault, they sent him back to the minors. I'm blanking one more guy who just got sent down to the minors, and they were thinking about maybe moving on from him. But you know what I'm saying? Like their team as a whole, their organization as a whole, clearly is not ready for prospects. They want to win, and keeping prospects over consistent NHL players who, now their team, they can't score. Right? Well, they've got this Laba kid who's young that they're trying to force in the lineup. They're trying to give Lafreniere minutes. Well, if they had traded Lafreniere and Kakko and all these guys for legit NHL players a few years back, who knows where this team would be right now? It could be in a much better situation. So, yeah, the Rangers, the Sabres, the Predators kind of get an F for me on the way that they're handling prospects right now, and, just organizational intelligence, in my opinion. But I think that's it, unless anyone wants to chime in the comments. Like I said, more than welcome to. And we'll throw comments up on stage if you want. We can talk things over. But if not, I'm pretty sure that's going to wrap it up here. So I'll give a minute. We can talk about one more thing here. Yeah, let's talk more about Philly and Dan Vladar. Let me just go look at their statistics, because Dan Vladar is doing amazing. Where's he got the Flyers? So despite him, the Flyers are 7th in the Metro, but Dan Vladar has 3 wins. The Flyers only have 3 wins, and he has some of the best stats in the NHL. And it does just show that sometimes a backup goaltender just needs a shot. Look at Anthony Stolarz in Toronto. And I guess look at Logan Thompson in Washington. Look at Charlie Lindgren in Washington. Both of them are good goaltenders. Now, Artur Silov's kind of taking the net in Pittsburgh. We'll see if Pittsburgh can actually get goaltending for more than 2 years out of a guy. But I think Dan Vladar, if let's say Philadelphia stays bad and Vladar keeps up this pace, at least he could be a very good trade chip for a team looking to solidify some goaltending. What about, say, the Carolina Hurricanes, who are, Freddie Anderson's kind of older. Kochetkov is, up and down depending on the day. So I could totally see Dan Vladar maybe going to a team like Carolina if Freddie Anderson goes down with injury yet again. I hate to say Detroit, because I think Detroit is another team that until this year, with everyone except for Sebastian Cossa, was terrible at bringing their prospects in. But this year with Finney and Sandy Pelika and Edvinsson, I think that they're doing a much better job, in Branzig Nygaard, of course. But they still got to figure out the Cossa situation, because they are ruining him just like the Sabres are ruining Devin Levi. Yeah, I don't know if I really have much more, anyone. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in here as I filled in for Colton and Dayton on their live show. I'm Ryley again. If you didn't know, I'm one of the co-founders of Game Day Tarps and GDT Live. So if you could, please follow, subscribe, leave comments, if you will, as after the fact. Go on Spotify and everything. Download our episodes. That helps us out. And again, we appreciate everyone being here today. And we'll see you guys, I guess, Monday on GDT Live.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning into another video over here on the Game Day Tarps podcast and the Hockey Podcast Network. We've got so much more where this came from, so smash the like button, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell, turn the notifications on so you never miss a beat. For myself and the rest of the guys over at Game Day Tarps, we thank you, and we'll see you next time.